Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Panic. And we got ourselves a nice 45-minute interview with Shaun Morash. We've done live streams with him, but never actually had him on the podcast. So he's going to be starting, he's going to be the new drive time. He's the third chair. He is not like a board operator. He made that very clear, even though Neil Best got that wrong. He's the third chair on the Evan Robertson Tiki Barber show that starts July 24th. So what better time to get him on than now? Justin, how are you?
Yeah, Shaun's a great guy. We've been, friends
Debatable.
with him for the wow. We've been friends with him for the last couple of years. So excited to see, his rise. And I'll be listening to, WFAN like every day. So I'm really excited for Shaun. And, we talk some Giants, talk some radio, talk whatever.
Yeah, drive time should definitely be better for Giants fans with WFAN.
Yes.
I think that's very safe to say. Like with Tiki won. It's like Tiki, that's his number one thing is the Giants. And then Shaun, obviously, he's very passionate about the Giants. So we'll get into all that. No training camp schedule yet from the Giants. We've been trying to put pressure on them to do it. But I want it. I need it. And the Detroit Lions. I've had Detroit Lions notifications on for a month. Just freaking release your training camp schedule too.
Need it.
Need it. Want it.
I need it.
Gotta have it. Before we get into this interview, Justin, you know what? I'll save Patreons for the next episode because this is going to be a long episode and we got to do a lot of stuff before we get into this.
Love you, Patreon.
So Josh Vasey will announce you on the next episode, I promise. Before we get into the interview with Shaun Morash, the wait is almost over. This weekend, NASCAR is heading to the streets of Chicago for an unprecedented road course race through the heart of the city.
And so are we.
There's truly been nothing like this in NASCAR's 75 years of existence, and what an epic way to celebrate those 75 years of racing, competition, and innovation than with a one-of-a-kind event like this one. So, it truly is going to, I don't know what to expect out of this, because it's a very weird course, and, it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers, get through this. And you can go and watch Ross Chastain, number one. He just came off of his win. My favorite driver in Ross Chastain. You see that car? Or you could see Kevin Harvick, the guy who replaced Dale Earnhardt. It's his last season, so it might be your last chance to ever see him race a race. Or you could see Daniel Jones' good friend, William Byron, driving the 24, who Jeff Gordon used to drive for. The guy that replaced Jeff Gordon is Daniel Jones' friend. Or you could see my favorite team, Harrison Burton and the 21 Wood Brothers, even though they suck. So you could see all those guys. There's going to be a lot of fun. We will be there. The field will be even as ever, considering this will be every driver's first time behind the wheel of this course, which I think is very fun for NASCAR fans or racing fans in general. The 12 twists and turns throughout historic Grant Park are sure to make for some unbelievable racing, and with playoff spots on the line, who knows what's going to happen. Did we mention it's the 4th of July weekend too? You already knew that. So make sure to get the whole crew together to celebrate the Stars and Stripes and turn the first ever Chicago Street Race on July 2nd at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC. NBC. What channel is NBC for you?
Channel 4, Bruce Beck.
It's Channel 2 here. Shout out Bruce Beck. We love Bruce Beck on this podcast.
Bruce
Beck is someone that we should have on the podcast that hasn't been on.
Wow.
Bruce
NBC does a good job covering NASCAR, so shout out Dale Jr.
Yeah, they actually do a good job covering it. So, my friends who are kind of F1 snobs, now they are going to tune into this because they're just I want to see what this looks like.
Yeah.
And I've always said, if you don't like racing, fine. I had someone today say NASCAR's boring, and I said F1's better. I was like, hey, if you think F1's better, that's fine. If you don't like racing, that's fine. What you can never say is that NASCAR is boring compared to F1. NASCAR is at least going to give you some freaking action, so I'm excited for it. And we will see you guys there. But what's before then is this interview with Shaun Morash. All right, we now welcome on to the program. New. It doesn't start till July 24th, but it's new. The host, third chair on the Drive Time WFAN program, Tiki, Robertson and Barber, Shaun Morash. What's the name of the show again?
Evan and Tiki.
Evan and Tiki.
Evans earned his stripes to have number one up there.
Okay.
Wow.
Evan and Tiki, you're You're the third man on that, despite what Neil Best said. How you doing, man? We've had you on a bunch of live streams. I think this is your first time on the podcast, though.
I thought about that on my drive home today. I said, I know I've been on with Bobby and then Bobby a couple times solo. I kind of feel like every time Justin can't make it on a live stream, suddenly it's me popping on. But yeah, I think this might be my first time on Talking Giants, man. So Talking Giants versus the World. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for jumping on. I do want to talk about all the WFAN stuff because, I mean, me and you talk on the phone. I'm a nerd about all that stuff.
You do love radio, yes.
And I don't even listen to radio, but I'm like a nerd about radio. Like the only conversations me and John Boy have are about radio. Like you go, it's like today was a congrats on the kid. The last 3 conversations we had have been about like WFAN and radio. When he had on what's Sweeney, Sweeney Murdy, yeah, when he had him on. And then the new changes you guys made. But we're gonna talk Giants football to start. How are you feeling going into this season? I'm a little nervous because it's like, okay, not only like we have expectations to win because we won.
Well, so my biggest thing, and I think because the offseason is so long, Bobby, Justin, and maybe I kind of feel like Justin might appreciate this a little more because I feel like he's a little sick and demented like this. But sure. I've reached this portion of the offseason. I won't give my win record because hopefully I catch you guys at training camp.
Yeah, that's a training camp thing.
I'm extremely positive about the season. How could you not be? Extremely positive that they're going to take the next step. But I've now transitioned into looking at the roster and trying to say, oh my goodness, who's going to get hurt that's going to kill us in training camp? That is now the portion of the offseason I'm at, where how many times can I think there and think positively? I've now moved on to my negative thoughts, and I'll get through those before we actually get to training camp.
Part of me wants to get that out of the way too, so I can stop doing the phrase like "if they're healthy." Like,
yes,
I hate that. That's my most annoying phrase of the offseason is "if they're healthy" because it's
and you know what's going to happen.
Not going to predict this. I'm not going to predict this guy to get injured, even if he has a injury history.
No,
but it's like when we talk about Sterling Shepard. When it's like, man, he kind of is like the 6th wide receiver if everyone else stays healthy, but he's the one that usually doesn't stay healthy. Yeah. So it's just like, I just want to get through camp and see who's healthy for the season.
Are we not at a point where we're brainwashed, especially as people who kind of like cover the team year in and year out, really analyze it, as fans, you're always going to be optimistic, but now it's like, yeah, man, like I've penciled Sterling Shepard to miss at least 4 to 6 games since 2020.
Well, how could you not?
I started like covering the Giants like really good at like 2019. So it's like, all right, this is really a thing that's going to happen. So I'm like brainwashed for especially like the wide receiver room because that's the position that it always hits us. So I'm like,
Waller is the one I hate using that phrase for because I want to get so freaking excited for him, but I got to have every conversation with if he stays healthy.
And I know this is terrible and you don't want to think about it. And hopefully everybody's healthy, but everybody won't. This will be the year none of the wide receivers get hurt. It'll be some other position group that gets absolutely ravaged. And we're going to be going nuts. But so to ask me how I'm feeling about the season, I hate to put a negative light on. I am extremely positive, but the offseason's now gone on so long that is now the thought process that has started here as July is entering going, all right, are we going to escape camp without a major injury? If not, where is it going to happen?
But here's the positive view you can have is with this coaching staff. I think unless if Daniel Jones and Andrew Thomas are healthy, I think we can get by. I think the roster is in a lot better place to get by than they were last year. So I think with this coaching staff, as long as Daniel Jones or Andrew Thomas aren't injured, and maybe even Daniel Jones, if you're playing like the right stretch of bad teams for Tyrod Taylor to play, I think we can get by.
I agree, and I would still say Adoree Jackson's number 3 on that list for me because who knows how long it takes Deonte Banks to be, a really good starting corner. But I'm with those.
I agree, but they finished the season like 6-7 games without Adoree Jackson last year too.
They did, but I don't know that they survived 16 games without Adoree Jackson. If we're talking about a training camp injury,
that's sure. Okay, fair. The first question I had on the thing is most impactful addition to the team, not named Darren Waller or Bobby Okereke.
Ooh, that's a good one. It's probably going to be Paris Campbell, I think, personally.
I thought you'd go that way.
We want to talk about the wide receiver room. I believe that Jalen Hyatt will be a factor at some point this year. How could you not, right? They spent a 3rd-round pick on him, traded up, but I don't think that's going to be right away. I know that this is a very pro-Darius Slayton podcast, and I am pro-Darius Slayton to begin with, too, but I think that the Giants are probably not in a good position in their wide receiver room if we get to late December and Darius Slayton is one of their 2 leading receivers. I think the expectation for Hyatt is especially to step up, what happens with Hodgins, but I think Paris Campbell's the X factor there. I think it's not just about Wan'Dale Robinson not being on the field, however long his injury recovery takes, whatever he looks like. I think that this team really views the signing of Paris Campbell as a guy who hasn't stayed healthy a lot in his career, stayed healthy last year with the worst quarterback situation in football. And I think that views him in like a Deebo Samuel type role. And if that's going to be the case, I mean, with all due respect to how good Richie James was at times last year, I think the Giants offense has a chance to go next level with the way that this coaching staff gets creative with Paris Campbell. I think that's a very under the radar signing league wide, because I don't think that Campbell would have the same value to other teams the way he could with the Giants with Abel and Kafka. So to me, it's got to be Paris Campbell because this offense needs to score more points.
Yeah, and they got him on a bargain because of I hate having this conversation again, because of the injury history, this is the first time where, like, Paris Campbell is someone we covered in the draft and I loved him and Terry McLaurin. But it's just like every year it's like, can't stay healthy. And then like you said, you mentioned last year with the worst quarterback situation in the NFL, he was able to put together some halfway decent numbers despite that. To
me, the best preview podcast that you guys did last year was the Giants Colts podcast. Why? Because I'm a sucker for when you 3 do the fantasy draft. And remember how hard it was to pick Colts in the fantasy draft and talking about, Paris Campbell with all, but you're like, think about it. They had nobody to get these guys the ball. So Paris Campbell finally staying healthy. You saw the play he made down the field versus the Giants. Yeah. Daniel Jones could get him the ball and they will find ways to make excuses to get him the ball. So as I mentioned, all those names in the wide receiver room, I just think they're going to be the most creative with Paris Campbell. And I think that changes everything for this Giant offense.
I usually don't go back and re-listen to like old shows to hear takes and stuff like that, but especially now hearing how much Paris Campbell has gotten the ball over the course of the spring and now the early part of the summer. Yeah. How he, hey, if there's like a replacement for like Richie James in the slot and being like a reliable guy, at least until Wan'Dale Robinson kind of comes back. And even Wan'Dale Robinson, I don't think is going to be maybe use like a Richie James, because Wan'Dale Robinson maybe is a little bit more gimmicky, whereas Campbell, seasoned vet, a guy that can get separation naturally fast, obviously better than Richie James. But I'm just talking about in that same kind of reliable,
third down
of target, move the chains, stuff like that. So this is actually a really interesting conversation about who's going to be second on the team in like yards and receptions and stuff like that, because we're hoping that Darren Waller's number 1 in all those categories. Sure. And catches and yards and touchdowns and all of it. But I mean, I didn't know it was this much. Paris Campbell, 63 catches last year. Darius Slayton, 46. Now Slayton had a ton yards, yards per reception, which cleared Campbell by about 100 yards total, like receiving yards. But it's certainly a conversation. I think it's going to be like, I may be switching my take of like Darius Slayton leading the team as a receiver. Yeah. Like as a wide receiver, not in receiving yards. I may be kind of flipping it to Paris Campbell is definitely going to lead the receiving room in catches possibly.
Yeah, I could see Campbell leading in receptions and then Slayton leading it in yards too.
Because that's the whole thing. They're going to make excuses to put the ball in Campbell's hands. That's evident in the spring. They wouldn't be doing that.
And I don't think Slayton's someone that they are like, let's get Clayton all his touches,
Right. I think Slayton enters every game knowing that, look, he's reliable from the standpoint of runs every route, plays that outside, speed, defense factors in. But I don't think they're going to make a conscious effort to get Darius Slayton the ball. It'll be just him working open and running those routes that gets him there, where I think they will make excuses to put the ball in Paris Campbell's hands.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. We've seen like both of these coaching, or at least the Buffalo coaching track was like finding those slot guys who have maybe not burst onto the season and getting a role for them. So yeah, Paris Campbell is definitely exciting. And that's why I wanted to say outside of Waller Okereke, because there's obvious reasons for those.
Is that where you knew I was going? Is that what you said?
Well, it's just those are the most impactful additions. Like you can, after that, it's like you can have fun and actually give a real take.
Right.
Like you can make John Michael Schmitz, Deontay Banks. Sure. So it'll be interesting to see. All right, required question. We're 3 weeks out now. What happens with Saquon?
I'll tell you this. I think Saquon, if he plans on holding out, is doing the worst job I've ever seen of somebody holding out, including...
He's not holding out. It's where like you can't even like
Well,
He's doing such a bad job that you can't even pretend that it's an option.
Bro, you can't be at a high school having a catch with Daniel Jones when high school baseball players come up if anybody thinks that you're really threatening not to play. So I'm going to say he gets a long-term deal. I think it'll look good for his camp in terms of, look, he won a little bit, but it's going to be a lot of fake money in guarantees, if you will. And it really will add up to probably what he gets over the next 2 years with the tag, plus whatever in that third year, with maybe a really dummy fourth year, which balloons the number that he'll never get to.
Now that you're saying it, it's every time we have the conversation, it's like new things happen, where like everyone's like, well, why doesn't Saquon leak out the guaranteed money? And it's like, well, maybe the guaranteed money is not as bad, but he is going for that $16 million average annual value. What if he's going for 4 years? Like, we all like kind of view it on like a 3-year spectrum, but what if he's going for 4 years, with 3 years of it guaranteed? And it's not that the guaranteed money is bad on a 3-year deal.
Right.
It's that, hey, they want to give him a 3-year deal, and it's a 4-year deal with 3 years guaranteed that he wants. So I think the Giants are offering a lot more than anybody else would give. I think that's what it comes down to, and the Giants know that. Which kind of
scares me. So I agree with you. It kind of scares me because you don't want to bid against yourself either. And I do wonder how much, dare I say, John Mara could meddle in this with like the franchise idea, the jersey sales, all that stuff. Like I hope that Shane's just allowed to operate the way he wants to operate, but you shouldn't bid against yourself either when all this is going on, just because Saquon's a good team guy, good community guy, all of that. But that's why I just think ultimately they will find a way to get it done. Maybe it's a little more money than we think, but I don't think it'll be some kind of running back crippling injury where we're looking back like Zeke Elliott with the Cowboys and you're wondering what if. And oh, by the way, as good as Saquon was last year, guess what? He wore down at one point because he got hurt again. He had to play through it a little bit. And that still scares me with his injuries.
Yeah, I have a question, and I'd love to hear this from like NFL personnel. We are at this point in the offseason, so I get it could be a little bit of dirty business. But guess what? We've seen James Bradbury get a decent contract later in the year. If you truly think you're offering more than anybody else is going to give him, and I think they are, why not do what one of Dave Gettleman's few good moves is when he did with Josh Norman, rescind the tag, right? And maybe it wasn't a good move because he lost that year of Josh Norman on the Panthers coming off Super Bowl, but it's like he ended up getting a big contract that was like regretted by by Washington that gave it to him. Why not rescind the tag and be like, all right, this is our offer, man. If you can beat it, go beat it. But I don't think you will.
Probably don't like their contingency plans. Number one. Number two, maybe Saquon's valued a lot higher than Dalvin Cook or whoever else, where they do fear that somebody will strike in like an idiot. Who knows?
Well, that's the thing is Cook has got nothing. So
exactly. Far. Exactly, but maybe Saquon is viewed that way differently in the league, and we're too close to it. But also,
I do think Saquon is viewed like as good as Cook's numbers were last year. We played the Vikings twice. Cook did not look like the same Cook that we've seen in past years, despite having solid numbers.
And let's also be real: if you were going to rescind the tag, how bad does it look not holding on to Julian Love when you could have tagged him then as well? I think now that you have it tagged on him, you cannot lose both Saquon and Julian Love this offseason.
Yeah, I guess. That's where I guess I'm answering my own question. It's like it's good for the Giants to play Saquon Barkley on the franchise tag because you don't have to give him a long-term deal.
It's the ideal situation. Now, my only fear, it's not a fear, but I just saw Brian Dable get so annoyed. This may be a thing. This may not be a thing, Shaun. You let me know, especially for somebody who's like, you're in media. Mm-hmm. Brian Dable got so annoyed just by answering, what it was a relative of few Saquon Barkley questions throughout the spring, especially in comparison to the questions that he will get every single day during training camp if he holds out. Is it a stretch to say that having to answer to the media and having to answer, where is Saquon Barkley? When is he coming back? When is he coming back? Does that play an effect at all in terms of his appearance at camp to the contract negotiations and Dable having to answer questions, everything like that?
It better not. That would be my easy answer. It better not, because whenever we talk about can a quarterback handle the New York media, that's part of it. It gets really annoying. We have pestering beat writers, some of which I like, some of which may not break as many stories as they should. But either way, we have really annoying beat writers for every team here, and that's part of taking the job. So if that's going to annoy you and make you go into Shane's office, and that gives Saquon more money because you're tired of being annoyed by questions, then Dable's not the guy for the job. So my answer shortly would just be, it better not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what we've seen at there's like they ask the first couple of days, and then it's like they kind of get tired out. It's like, okay, I want to ask other questions. Like you'll get one person every press conference, but they won't be asking like 5 in a row.
Yeah, we need more dead snap questions, not more Saquon questions.
Exactly.
Right?
We need to create some like I would say credit to Talking Giants. Like we created questions for the OTAs and the minicamp, so we got to create some questions for training camp so we don't have to deal a bunch of Saquon stuff.
Which might be a sad indictment on the Giants beat right now that you guys are really helping control questions because there's nothing left to ask. But hey, it works, right?
Well, to be fair, there really isn't not much to ask in OTAs. Plus, Brian Dable, and Brian Dable doesn't answer anything either. Yeah,
he's got that Belichick. He's Belichick fat with a beard, and it comes off as more charming.
Yeah, and they won, so it's a lot more. If the Giants went 4-13 last year, people would be like, "This guy doesn't say nothing. Exactly. He doesn't show urgency." It'd be like what Buck Showalter is like going through with the Mets right now.
Yeah, who may not have a job by the time this is released, right?
Yeah. So,
all right, I'm sensing a transition. Before we get back to Giants stuff, I want to talk some WFAN stuff because I'm sensing a transition about kind of like asking questions and maybe the media, the quote unquote media getting some questions from us. And
I'm wearing my media some clown shirt too, by the way.
Wow, look at that. Look at that. Part of why I'm transitioning to this is because I feel like we do our work and we try and do our homework. And I think that we do some smart, intelligent stuff sometimes, and we do some dumb stuff sometimes too. And why I think the pairing of, Tiki and Evan Roberts, and then obviously you as kind of like in that third chair, why I think that pair is going to work, and I really hope it does work, is because I feel like a lot of sports media, and I sense this especially nationally, it's kind of not smart. It's not intelligent talk. It's very based on personality. It's very based on hot take. It's very based on how am I going to get a reaction out of people? Whereas, this kind of new afternoon spot is with, two main heads that are, very passionate, but also very intelligent. And then obviously you as well joining that. So talk to me kind of about this kind of new show and, how we think it's going to work out.
Well, so first of all, there's like a science, right? You guys do the podcasting. I'm not sure how many like radio classes you took in school or whatever.
0.
Yeah, so I was an intern back in 2010, worked my way up. But there's a science to this, right? People in their cars in the morning want to laugh their ass off. That's why morning show formats work, and they could be a little more loose, especially in the sports talk, which is what I've been doing on CBS Sports Radio. Afternoons, by that time, you're in your car, maybe work's winded down, and it's the idea of you want to be entertained, but you know what? You want to look forward to whatever games. You get a little more sportsy in the afternoon. So where I think striking that perfect balance of also understanding the podcasting world, not everybody's listening live anymore. So you need to like kind of figure out how to mold this all in. I think where this show is going to work and what I'm most excited about is the fact that you have Tiki Barber, who I've gotten to know over years, which imagine telling 8th grade me I was going to be hosting a show with Tiki Barber, WFN Afternoons. I'd be like, what is going on? He's the perfect, like even-keeled athlete. He has opinions, but like he's super knowledgeable. He's one of the smartest people I've ever been around, and he will always give that athlete point of view. Evan is as nerded out a sports fan in a good way that you can be, and everybody's very familiar with his work at this point. And I'm kind of like hyper tense, neurotic sports fan that maybe screams and yells a little too much, but ultimately, I will be there. And so I think that kind of mesh of you're kind of checking a lot of boxes of what you're looking for in a sports radio show in terms of those personalities. And of course, Tommy Lugauer, who's another Giant fan working with us as a producer, is a little nuts too. Where I think it's really cool, and what WFAN has rarely had, I think one of the biggest complaints I've always heard on Twitter is this show doesn't talk enough about my team. That show doesn't talk enough about my team. Giants fans have complained about that forever. Like maybe there's not enough Giants voices on WFAN. I've seen that. This show, if you look at the teams Evan roots for, the teams I root for, of course, Tiki being a former Giant, and Tommy's with us as well. Every single fan base, including the hockey fan bases, will have a voice on this show, excluding, no offense, Bobby, the Devils. Other than that, there's a Ranger fan, there's an Islander fan, Knicks, Nets covered, Giants football. You're going to have one of the greatest Giants of all time and one of the craziest Giant fans in terms of loses his mind in me. Like, Giants football will be back as a presence on the fan, but every fan base is going to have a feel for that. And I think that you will be entertained, plus actually get the hardcore sports you're looking for and you're thirsting for an afternoon drive.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm really excited as somebody who kind of, lives here. And, now that, I really take this personally with the Giants because the Giants are my job. So
yeah, man.
when I hear
gotcha.
Giants talk, that's like, well, that's not, that's not right. This guy's not starting here. This guy's not actually playing here.
Oh,
I would hear on some sports shows, you know how we feel about Jason Garrett. So I would hear on some certain shows, well, Jason Garrett's a seasoned coach and he's a seasoned veteran and he's been around and he's not hurting the team. It's like, I want to gouge my eyes out. So
right, which is why what you guys have done is great because Giant fans have been able to find it. But you're right. So I will give you. I'm not going to release the show. It was another station. Somebody claimed to be a diehard Giant fan a few years back, and I'm in my car listening, and they were breaking down the offensive line, and they're going like left to right and talking about the Giant offensive line problems, and they utter out, and then you got Pugh sitting there at right tackle. He at that point Pugh was already moved to left guard.
Yeah,
and I remember sitting in my car going, how could you lie to yourself and say you're a Giant fan talking to the Giant when you don't even know who's playing one of the O-line?
You just said I'm not going to name the name.
It's not somebody I work with. I whatever. I'll tell you. It was Dave Rothenberg over on ESPN.
Okay, see, you're a radio guy. You gotta shit talk now.
It was years ago. I don't even think he's a bad dude, but he claims to be Mr. Giant. This was like, and I think I tweeted at him, which I had to learn how to stop doing because I need to be a little more professional, like totally mixing
Bobby
it up.
needed to learn how to stop doing that a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's tough. But I remember saying, like, dude, you're supposed to be Mr. Giant here. What do you do? And again, a long time ago, and he was like, oh, I knew that, but in case it's still not too late to move him. Like, you didn't know that. You didn't realize you weren't paying attention to the offensive line moves. But to your point, I find that frustrating as a fan of a team. You want to hear guys know what they're talking about, not fake their way through it.
Yeah.
Justin, make sure this clip gets sent to Awful Announcing.
No, I'm a big Dave Rothenberg guy. So
I am too. I'm not. Yeah, please. I don't need to be fired before I'm hired here, Bobby.
Send it to Awful Announcing.
Oh.
But I won't make that mistake with the Giants. Damn it.
We'll see. We'll see with the preseason. Like how in tune are you with the 6-string tight end?
Are you going to be talking about
going right to
Are you guys going to do shows from camp?
Oh, that's a good question.
I believe we will. I mean, again, we're waiting for the camp schedule to come out. We're already in talks. We start the week of July 24th. So I don't think this is done yet. Maybe I shouldn't even be teasing this, but I'll just say we plan on going to one of the Subway Series games and doing a show from Hard Rock. We'll see if it matters for the Yankees and Mets in 3 weeks. But so I already know. I already know.
We might go to that. I get there, assuming camp starts the 27th. Or no, that's June. Yeah, I will probably be there July 25th. So
yeah, so right around then. So I know the breadcrumbs are already there to start doing remotes, but the WFAN's always had a presence at camp. I guess it's a matter of what time these practices are, right? Like I've done camp shows in the past where there's morning practices and we're there and nobody's there except for Totino eating pizza, and you're seeing the lawn get cut, but you have to pre-tape a lot of interviews. So I guess we'll see exactly what happens. But I'd love to do a show from camp, and I guess that would be the plan if the schedule allows it.
Fair. So you'll have to make your debut in the van this year.
Yeah, let's go. As long as you got like gobstoppers or something, I'm in.
When is Tiki coming on Talking
Giants?
Giants?
I'm kidding, Justin. I just named the random candy with the candy in the van.
Oh, I was like, what are gobstoppers? I never heard of them.
When is Tiki coming on on Talking Giants?
There's going to be an established relationship. I could probably get you guys Tiki.
Maybe both of you guys get in the van for camp.
I'm sure I'd have no issue with that. And Tiki, I say this genuinely. This is not the first time I've worked with Tiki. He used to work at CBS Sports Radio. Tiki is a man of the people. Absolutely. I think he would absolutely do it. So if I'm your gateway to Tiki, I think that's great.
I know some people haven't, but it's like, you should have forgiven Tiki by now if you're a Giants fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's like when his first day at WFAN, like I think he laid it all out.
Oh, he owned up to it too.
Yeah. It's like Tiki is actually like, maybe, hey, if you don't like him on the radio, don't like him on the radio. But it's like, as like a Giants fan, it's like, I think he's got like good perspective on a lot of different situations being there. Like, and again, Tiki's the best running back in this Giants franchise.
Yeah. I would say to anybody in 2023, get over it now if you still don't like Tiki Barber. Like, you guys are all a little younger than me, but we're all within the same era. I mean, Tiki was everything to us. I thought when Tiki retired, I was like, Giants going to have a horrible season. Yeah. They won the Super Bowl, but that's how good Tiki was, that it's like, this team cannot win without Tiki. That's how good he was. And newsflash, he was in the huddle. he was in the locker room. Eli might have been very skittish, to use that word at times. And guess what? Eli was allowed to change and grow up, and he did. Tiki was speaking from that point of view. So what? You didn't like what he said about Eli? Yes, Eli was our guy. Eli ended up proving that was no longer the case, but who's to say it wasn't the case? It very well might have been the case. And I know this for a fact.
Well, and there was some bitterness towards Coughlin there too, which is, I think Tiki would look back and be like, okay, like seeing what Coughlin did, like he kind of had stuff figured out a little bit.
Yeah, but like before Coughlin changed and everything like that.
Yes, of course. And Coughlin gets credit for changing. So Tiki couldn't change over the years. And Justin, you go to way more Giant games than me and Bobby do. Live close to the stadium, the whole deal. You probably don't see Tiki Barber waving on the Jumbotron at the point, but he's had a lot of games and a lot of suites and stuff like that. Tiki Barber is a legitimate Giants fan. Like, he actually cares about he felt pain the last 5 years. Every time I would talk to him in the newsroom, he would come right up to me. We would talk Giants football. Like, he's invested as a fan, which I think is important. So he's just as invested as the rest of us. But there's still some people out there saying they don't like Tiki. You really have to get over yourselves. And I hope that this afternoon spot with me as a Giant fan with him will bring some of that out and people have a little more appreciation for him.
All right, before we go back to our interview with Shaun Morash, we got to talk about bird dogs. Bird dogs make me look good. They make me feel good. And I'll tell you what, I've been wearing my bird dogs when I've been going out to eat. And when I pack in the food a little bit more, probably a little bit more than I should, bird dogs with their stretch fabric technology, they make me feel good and they make me feel kind of relieved, if you know what I'm saying. The pants don't get any tighter because they are supposed to stretch. They give me a truly sculpted look. They fit. Bird dog shorts fit way better than regular shirts. They are made of a stiff, restricting cotton. Fix this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks like khaki but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. Because knowing me, I'll be eating a steak 1 minute and then I'm running a 40-yard dash the next minute. That's what I do. And Bird Dogs also uses anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. And hey, if I'm running that 40 after I eat, that's exactly what I need. So go to birddogs.com/Giants for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/Giants for a free Yeti-style tumbler. You'll be glad you did. And back to talking with Shaun Morash.
We're getting ready to do our over-unders episode in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I don't know what to expect statistically from Daniel Jones. You know, I'm not asking you for a stat line, but it's just a way of talking about Daniel Jones because I was thinking about that episode today. And it's like you have like Warren Sharp, he shared like all the Giants' leading receivers in the games they won this year. And it's like, it's insane. It's like Daniel Bellinger, Richie James, and Darius Slayton. Like, those are the only three. And it's like when people are like, yeah, the offense ran through Saquon. It's like, yeah, no shit. What other player do you think we should have ran this offense through? Like, what would you want us to run it through? Daniel Bellinger? Like, Richie James? Who did you want us to run it through? Man, you've watched his whole career so far.
Mm-hmm. Every game, at least 3 times. Do you think we're
going into this year? Do you think we're going to be like, hey, this guy, man, all you did need was the weapons to create big plays? Or do you think we'll have more big plays this year, but do you think we have an inherently more conservative quarterback? Which isn't bad. It doesn't mean it's bad, but it can keep the ceiling a little low.
So it's obviously the $1 million question. And I think, I hate to do this. This is very sports radio-y, but I'm going to go very in between. I have been very pro look at Tua and look at Hurts the moment they got weapons. Darren Waller's there, but I don't think that we necessarily added A.J. Brown to go with a seasoned Devontae Smith or Tyreek Hill to go with Jalen Waddle. Like, I think we're still lacking a little bit in weapons. And of course, how is the interior offensive line going to hold up versus pressure versus some of these D tackles? That still affects everything as well. But here's the bottom line. Last year, what Daniel Jones was able to accomplish with the wide receiver injuries, finally when he had a set kind of combo with Slayton and Hodgins and James down the stretches when he played his best football, the coaching staff learning Daniel Jones, the same offense they were running week 1 was not the same offense they were running week 17, clearly, especially after the running game got figured out. Last year was like a tale of a couple different seasons, and Daniel Jones kept answering the bell, and it wasn't necessarily about the yardage or the touchdown passes. It was about putting the team on the back when he had to, including that Packer game, which I feel like is really the game Daniel Jones came alive and convinced everybody that he was a leader. Saquon goes out, and he's dragging the team on one leg down the field. So I think the stats will increase. What I won't stand for is everybody focusing on touchdown passes when, whatever, he threw 17, 16 touchdown passes or whatever, 15, however it ended up being. And then it's, you ignore the 7 touchdown runs he has as if he should slide it to 1 every time and dump it off to a tight end to make sure the touchdown pass numbers are up. It's about total touchdowns. He's that kind of new age quarterback, but I do think those numbers will all go up. And by the way, they have to. Versus a tougher schedule, the Giants are going to have to score more points, but I think they will. I think this is now year 2 of the coaching staff. They're going to throw more at Daniel Jones. He look like a guy who can't handle that. And I think by virtue, I don't know what the correct stat line is, but the Giants will score more touchdowns this year because Daniel Jones will be a better quarterback in this system with better weapons. That much I know.
Something that gets me a little excited is think about before Andrew Thomas got hurt in 2021, and with new additions, like weapons that were better, Kenny Golladay was actually good in that first
Golladay
half.
Looked like a legit one.
And it was second year in the Jason Garrett offense, which sucked, and Daniel Jones looked really good.
He did.
Like before the Andrew Thomas injury, it's like Daniel Jones is balling. And it wasn't just Giants fans getting excited. Like talks around the league, like this dude is balling. Yeah. Andrew Thomas gets hurt. He gets that concussion, and the season kind of spiraled after that, even though he wasn't bad after that. He wasn't like at that balling level, where I think 2021, because he missed the last 6 games, gets looked at as like, man, this bad year from DJ. It's like, no, you look at it deeper. There's some bad moments, but he was pretty good within that offense, despite having like that really bad Bucks and Rams game.
What I can't stand is the moving of the goalposts of him, right? I mean, how much did anybody who doesn't, or I guess it was internally.
It happens on both sides though, too, though.
Yeah, but like, he's such a turnover machine. He's the least turned over quarterback per snap and drop back in football.
For a long time, too, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you move the goalpost, and now suddenly the turnovers didn't matter. It was all about passing yards and touchdowns. It's crazy. The guy can't win.
That got figured out. He figured that out halfway through 2020, a little to the detriment, because the first half of 2020, Daniel Jones still kind of had that Pat Shurmur mindset and a Jason Garrett offense, and it just mixed like water and oil. It was really bad. I think that was the longest stretch of just bad quarterback play from DJ. And then, I mean, you remember at the end of the 2020 season, before Evan Ingram literally popped up another interception for him, no quarterback went longer without an interception than Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Then he didn't throw a single interception outside the Hail Mary in the Saints game until that Rams Week 6 game.
Yes.
And then last year, obviously, being number 1 in the league in interception rate. So that's obviously gotten a ton better.
John, you mentioned how they're going to score more touchdowns, right?
Yes.
Where do the Giants rank in total touchdowns during the first half of 2022 games?
Top 12.
The first half of games.
I'm sorry. You're talking about last year. I thought you were telling me to make a prediction. Last year.
No.
During the first half of games. They never scored in the first half, so it's got to be bottom 5.
21. Right? They were 21st. I was counting.
Wow, 21st. Because how many games
higher than you thought?
Yeah, how many games did it feel like
we thought you were getting ready to set us up for like 30 seconds.
I know. Yeah. I thought it was.
I was an idiot. I thought you were asking me for a prediction before that. Sorry.
No, but I thought it would be a little bit lower. Now in the second half, how many where do they rank in total?
That would be scored? I mean, I felt like most of their touchdowns happened in the second half. So, but they still didn't score a lot of touchdowns overall. I guess I'll use my generic top 12 answer here.
15th in scoring.
Yeah. I was going to say 12th, 11th.
No, they were 6th. So,
okay.
Gives you a little bit of faith, gives you a little bit of hope. Hey, we're a top 6 touchdown scoring team in the second half. Let's make that the first half, and then we're like a top 10, top 5 offense.
Right. Then get back to the running game in the second half if you have to.
John, that's like my big thing this year, man. I don't know how I want to roll it out. It's literally going to be like, how Bobby Skinner, like on the podcast apps, will give like an impassioned speech like draft day or before week 1. That's my thing this year, man, where, the Giants tried to do it last year. Like they actually operated backwards sometimes they tended to throw the ball a little bit more earlier in the game. And then when they were down by double digits, they started running, and then they like came back in some of these games early in the year. I'm sorry. I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think giving Saquon Barkley the ball, all these times and all these carries and all these touches. I mean, he had so many touches last year, and you saw how it weighed on him with a Brian Dable and Mike Kafka-led team, especially when you just paid a quarterback $40 million. He's getting $40 million per year, right? My approach to winning in the NFL and winning with this Giants team is more balance. I'm not even asking for a pass-first team. I'm asking for more balance, and the balance is going to show up by explosive plays early in the game, getting off to a better start, early down efficiency by passing on early downs, and not even expanding the field a ton, but just having Daniel Jones making quick, methodical decisions, getting the lead, and then that's when Saquon Barkley comes in the second half of the year. That is like my big freaking thing this year that I want to push out. That is my path to victory, basically every single game for this Giants team.
I don't disagree, and I know this kind of kills the Daniel Jones depth of target argument that people want that to go up, and I think they will stretch the field and go downfield more. But man, when you consider the speed of Paris Campbell, the speed of potentially Wan'Dale Robinson, and then how they want to use Jalen Hyatt early in the year to try to get him on the field, I think that the best way to kind of, get away from those early down runs is the classic use the short pass game to kind of count as the run game at times. And I think putting the ball in those, talking about the speed all over the field, you're going to have, weird, whip around routes and 2-yard routes where you're hoping guys could take a 2-yard gain into a 12-yard gain. I think that's going to happen a lot for the Giants early in the season.
Yep, speed. That's it. Right after the catch. That's why they have done the thing, and this even includes Wan'Dale Robinson, second round pick last year. Little
the
debate.
game he got hurt in, they were doing all sorts of those plays.
Right. And his average up to target that game was not anything spectacular, but he had over 100 yards receiving and not a million catches. He didn't have 20 catches, 100 receiving yards. He had a good amount of catches with yards after the catch, and that's why they drafted him. They kept Slayton for speed. They drafted Hyatt for speed.
That opens things up for Saquon and Jones to run the ball too.
Yes,
yeah, well, that's
I agree.
All over the field.
I really have the belief. And Bobby has never adamantly disagreed with me. I do think there is a little bit of the run sets up the pass, but I really think that the pass sets up the run. I think the threat of a passing game does set up the running game way more than the other way around. Even though that's been the cliche saying for football forever.
Not that we have to spend too much time on this, but think about 2008. What made 2008 so special was the Giants did a lot of that. They would pass in the first half. They would do that. And then how fun was it watching Brandon Jacobs and Bradshaw destroy teams in the second half because they had broken their will and it had opened and their pass had set up the run. How great would it be to have that
interviewing, Bobby? We were interviewing somebody from that 08 team. Was it Soybert or was it had to be Soybert, who was talking about exactly this. And he said something along the lines of, it wasn't of course they had a good running team. Of course they had an all-time all-pro offensive line, but it was the threat of Plaxico Burress that took us out of the box.
Brandon Jacobs.
It was Jacobs that said that. Okay. Yeah.
And it opened everything up in the second half of those games. Yeah. They ran through teams in the second half.
Yeah.
Shout out Plaxico Burress. This interview is coming to an end. Will you be able to say goodbye without crying, Shaun?
You guys are asses. First of all, I worked somewhere with great guys for 10 years. I'm not going to see him as much because my hours are changing. Yes, forbid people actually care about where they work with and the people they work with. I'm a big emotional tub of goo. All right.
I know. I'm giving you shit because if I left talking Giants, I would probably get a little teary.
Of course.
I mean, I get emotional when the draft is over. So
I've cried at the end of 5-11 Giant seasons. I mean, I cry. I'm a crier. It's whatever.
I mean, yeah, it's like the end of every draft recap. It's emotional for me. So I had to give you a little bit of shit on that. And my favorite podcast picked that up, and I was like, "Let's go!" And they didn't shit on you as much as I was hoping.
Yeah, they did. Which is good. But I'm sure there's still going to be plenty of room for people to absolutely crush me. I'm sure that's coming.
Yeah, I'm excited for you getting more just random tweets at you. But that's the thing you got to be with radio. And this is where me and Shaun just start talking about radio. Is if you care about what people tweeted about you, just get off radio.
Yeah, I agree.
Now again, sometimes it's just there is assholes on radio, but it's no matter what you say, if you are on radio, you cannot you just got to deal with criticism and you can't let it bother you.
Dude, my entire junior high experience, I was a heavy set kid, let's call it, shopping in the Husky section of Sears with a mushroom haircut and acne. I took a beating from kids. Kids were brutal. I shed that, and I got to the point where I entered high school, and there was nothing anybody could say about me that I wasn't going to say about me first, and it completely changed my life. It disarmed everybody. I became semi-popular in high school as a result, and therefore I've always had this thick skin. Well, what are you going to say about me? I'm fat.
You're so
I'm
popular
an idiot.
in high school.
I'm bald. I'm this. I'm that. I've heard it all. Bring it on.
I think you just say your takes suck.
I've gotten that too. If you Google worst sports radio take of all time, my name is the first one that comes up from the freaking big lead.
What did you say?
Which one is that?
It was when San Diego State or San Diego Padres fans went nuts for San Diego State winning in the Final Four, and they were all at Petco Park. I had said on the air, those aren't real San Diego State fans, because no way during a Final Four game would you go to a Padre game. And the city of San Diego melted down and said I was horrendous. And the big lead said I'm stupid.
You can still root for, I'm not the biggest Miami Hurricanes fan. They're in the Final Four.
But no,
rooting for them hard.
You're right, Bobby. My point was I wanted to see real San Diego State fans at a bar or at home going nuts, not the ones who chose to go watch Juan Soto play at a Padre game. You did not make the San Diego State your priority. But anyway, apparently that was the worst sports radio take of all time, according to the big lead.
Obviously, our company is a baseball company, and it is. And I think they think San Diego's fans are the hard. It's the smallest fan base of baseball fans, means the most toxic online community.
Yeah, because they have an edge to them. It's almost like nobody could disrespect us, and if you are, we're going to kill you.
Yeah, I think that's the way people are with the Jags.
Yeah.
It's 70 degrees all year round. Why are they toxic?
Right, exactly. Have you ever put on a pair of mittens and tried to snow blow? Get lost.
I can never be toxic when wearing a robe indoors like I am right now. So how comfortable I am.
Yeah. Hugh Hefner's embarrassed for you, Justin, to be honest.
So I'm excited. July 24th is when the July 24th, the debut of Evan and Tiki with Shaun Morash.
No name on the marquee, but I'll be there with an open microphone, baby.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Wait, no, I have a question. So
can I get a streamline for my friend Tim from Florida to call in every once in a while?
That's important.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get Tim in Florida on the air.
If I texted you hey, my buddy Tim from Florida is going to call in, can we make sure that gets on the air and it's just between me and you? No one ever else knows.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody will know now since you guys have an extremely downloaded podcast. But sure,
oh, people don't know.
They can know. It's the regular radio.
Can we get the show off the air for a week before Tim in Florida's calling here?
I think he needs to be a first day caller.
First of all, you're lucky that we didn't get you canceled both times that we were on WFAN.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
Bobby joked about the Al Qaeda and Bobby's
the Taliban, not Al Qaeda.
Oh, sorry.
And then your Thanksgiving stupid joke that day after the Giants-Cowboy game.
Was it a joke?
Yes, it was. Your uncle was not making macaroni and cheese or whatever the heck he was making.
It was
lasagna.
His trailer burnt down.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was ravioli. No one wanted.
I have a serious question.
No one wants to admit they ate 10 cans of ravioli, but
I have a serious question, Shaun.
Yeah.
I'm not asking to be on the fan. I'm asking. I would like to come to the studio one day and get a tour.
So come through. Just first of all, I've been way more in touch with Bobby.
He already works there at CBS Studios. You guys are in the same building, right?
No, it doesn't count until Shaun starts on July 24th.
Yeah, no, you can come, Justin. That's a weird thing to say, but you can come to the studios. Just DM me on Twitter. Give me. I have Bobby's number. For some reason, I don't have your phone number. So, just text me, man. We'll get you up there. You want to come meet Tiki, hang out, check out the show? Come through.
I don't want to meet anybody.
You just want to see the studios.
I just want to see the studio.
All right, yeah.
And I want to see if anybody will recognize me, which nobody will.
Boy, I mean, and by the way, is there an more egotistical move than somebody recognizing me at the blackjacks table in AC? My God!
Oh my
Justin,
God!
Get over yourself.
I mean, first of all, I was shocked by that. So that's why I mean, what are the odds? I sit down at. I'm not Frank Sinatra, but I sit down at a table in Atlantic City, and
dude.
It's New Jersey, and you host the biggest Giants podcast.
It is true.
I get people that recognize me in Ross's in Florida.
But I walk around New York, and nobody, not a soul knows who I am.
Nobody would recognize Mike Trout in New York City. You got to go to the
one,
suburbs.
New York is a different animal. Second, even if people recognize you in New York, they don't say anything.
Right. Good point.
You know that I saw Zach Rosenblatt, Justin? This is when I was there for the draft. I was standing right next to Zach Rosenblatt. I was like, that looks like Rosenblatt. And I texted him. I was like, you on 37th Street? He's like, yeah. And I just didn't say anything to him. Because I wasn't 100% sure it was Zach Rosenblatt.
Did he say yeah?
Yeah, it was him. Now, to be fair, Zach Rosenblatt looks like every generic guy with a
True.
white guy with a big beard. But
I went to your tailgate and Bobby barely said anything to me. It's just the way New York.
That's not fair. You can never judge me about tailgates. Tailgates, it's nonstop, like just
That's
head spinning.
crazy. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like we're gonna try and get players at the Fan Fest.
Oh.
Actually, you know what? That's an idea because all right, let me just keep my mouth shut.
Keep your mouth shut.
All right, that's an interview. Shaun Morash. We will see you in training camp in about a month.
Let's go. And closing, thank you to anybody who's already sent me hate or anybody who's gonna love the show. Looking forward to talking more Giants football on WFAN afternoons. It's been long awaited and we're looking forward to it.
You're at Shaun Morash now, right?
Yeah, that was the other thing. Management wanted me to change my Twitter handle because I had a Mraz nickname on CBS Sports Radio. And they were like, you're in New York now, cut the nickname stuff, which I was totally fine with. Like, I didn't even want the nickname to begin with. But yeah, I'm at my real name, Shaun Morash on Twitter.
So Shaun Morash was just available and you never took it?
Never took it. Maybe like early on, it might have been like Shaun Morash, CBS, but there was like a caller in Salt Lake City. Like, nobody could pronounce my name for some reason. And it kind of became a funny gimmick that everybody in the show called me. So I just kind of submitted and gave into it for years. But no, that's over now. I'm just going by my name and nobody had it.
Are you excited for where's that Morass guy?
Yeah, if you think I haven't heard Morass my whole life, again, people are going to be in for a rude awakening if you think you're the first person ever to say that to me,
Jim,
I'm sure people will be.
Hamponkawa, wherever the hell those places are in upstate. Pantakawa, where's that Morass guy? Okay.
All right. Thank you for coming on. See ya.
All right, guys. Enjoy. Take care.
All right, thank you to Shaun Morash for coming on the show. Before we get out of here, we got to talk about SeatGeek. Hey, Daniel Jones was just at a Zach Bryan concert. I heard from somebody, Daniel Jones never used SeatGeek before. Don't know why. He doesn't have enough time. Daniel Jones never left his house for 4 years before he signed his contract. Now he left his house, used SeatGeek, downloaded SeatGeek, the #1 ticketing app around the world. He used promo code Giants for $20 off his first purchase for Zach Bryan tickets. Lo and behold, he bought tickets, but he was invited on the stage and he was singing songs. So how bold of Zach Bryan, by the way. If you didn't see the video of Daniel, he goes on, he sings a couple bars, sings a couple verses of apparently this good country singer. And the guy doesn't even wait till Jones is off the stage. Jones sings his verse and then the guy drops "Go Birds." The gall, the audacity to do that while the Giants quarterback is literally on the stage. Absolutely crazy. So, some are saying there are multiple pictures of Daniel Jones holding guns out there. So Zach Bryan should have known that. But Daniel Jones went to SeatGeek and he left his house for the first time in 4 years. Now they got $40 million a year. And if you don't know what SeatGeek is, like Daniel Jones, they're a ticketing app that makes buying tickets super simple. They have 28 million downloads. SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. Like I said, there's 70,000 events every day on SeatGeek, including sports, concerts, Zach Bryan concerts, festivals, and so much more. And every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And SeatGeek is the only site that lets you return your tickets ahead of the event with swaps. We've got the hookup. Use code GIANTS for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code GIANTS. Click the link in the description to download the app. Daniel Jones coming out of his shell. Cool. Like to see it. He's having a fun time. Or at least he's having a fun time, and now there's a camera on him this offseason.
You'll be glad. Yeah, you'll be glad you did. All right, good stuff. Thanks again for Shaun Morash for coming on. We'll definitely have him on. We'll get him in the van sometime during training camp. Excited to see how things work for him at the Fan and how they do with post Carton, who I think Carton was like a love or hate guy. So I'm interested to see how this show gets received. And I don't listen to radio, but I truly am a radio nerd. Like I read everything Awful Announcing says about radio. Andrew Marchand, I read all his stuff. Like I guess it's just sports media in general. Like I'm nerdy because I'm in sports media now.
Yeah. I mean, especially, living in the tri-state area and, just clicking.
It just means more there than it does anywhere in the world.
It means more for sure. And especially in the New York market. But I mean, just knowing, hey, even just remembering what, when Bobby and I first got together, there's a transition. You got to feel each other out. I know certain things to set up Bobby and, and what's going to get him riled up. I'm sure Bobby knows, and sets up some talking points in certain ways that he knows what's going to get me fired up and, what, his strengths, what my strengths are. It's going to take time for, I'm sure it's going to take time for them to figure out, especially because they are smart and they're knowledgeable. So they need to kind of figure out, what are they smart and knowledgeable about? What do they have in common and stuff like that? And there's going to be people in the beginning, just like with anything, that are going to say that they hate it. And then a couple months in,
tweet at Shaun Morash saying he sucks.
Don't do that.
Say you suck, Shaun Morash.
Don't do that. No, but I'm excited.
Yeah. All right. So we'll be back Friday. It's our 4th of July mailbag. It's once a year. We answer questions that are not Giants related. You can ask us questions about just questions about us, hypotheticals, whatever. So, and Danny King and Snacks will be on it, which I know makes for a long show and makes some of the questions a little tougher. But we're gonna do our best to answer as many as possible, even though it's gonna be. So just reply to the tweet on Talking Giants. I'm gonna retweet it again right now, just so it's fresh on the feed. Yeah, and we'll get into it. So we'll see you Friday, 4th of July mailbag. Until then, let's go Big Blue.